I am currently 8 days into No Spend November. That is no spend on books. And I did what I said I wasn't going to do. So literally October 31st, I went out and had yet another large book haul. So I had a total of 4 book hauls. The first one I'm going to show you is the smallest, and then we will work backward through the larger ones. So the first book is the eyewitness account of Operation Red Wing and the Lost Heroes of the SEAL Team 10. All of these books I'm going to show you were thrifted, and I do enjoy a look at some of the historical things that are fairly recent. So this would be one of those. Okay, the next book is the 50th anniversary edition of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit. Kind of an interesting picture there. I'm excited to have this. It does have a skull printed on the side, but I love this little size. I don't know if this is called a pocket size. I also enjoy reading this size book in my favorite childhood author, Cynthia Voigt. I have a couple of her books in this size, and these just bring back like childhood warmth memories. I don't know. It's a thing. Okay, next up, this is not a book I was looking for, but I thought it was really fun in the bright pink. I don't own many books bright pink like this. I've seen the movies and never read the Hunger Game books, so The Hunger Game it is. Next up, The Scottish Prisoner by Diana Gabaldon. And I found this one interesting because it's set in London in 1760. That is definitely a place and a time that I have not read about much at all. Okay, this next haul, I will let you know when this store ends. In fact, let me count how many I bought. Okay, this section is 18 books from this store on this visit alone. In no particular order, except that I had shoved them all in a box together and they all came from the same purchase. Here are the 18 books I got. From Ashes to Beauty by Jeff Colon, Spiritual Truths for Rebuilding and Revitalizing Your Marriage. I've not read anything else by this pastor, but yeah, that's all I know. So I always enjoy working on that relationship in life, so there's that. This is a book I've heard of for years, but never read, Knowing God by Packer. Next up, The Training of the 12 by A.B. Bruce. And this is a book that I had a different copy of, a copy that's mostly just blue, as a book for a class during college. And I appreciated then that I noticed it read more like a novel than an academic book. So I look forward to reintroducing myself to this book. Okay, this will be a book I spread out over a month or so, but Then Sings My Soul by Morgan. I put this cover that folds into a song that I'm really excited about seeing. So we have one page for every song. That's the lyrics and the music, and then the hymn story. I opened to Guide Me, O Thou Great Jehovah, because I specifically remember that hymn being sung quite a bit during my college years when I just really had a lot to grow in. Thoughts for the Quiet Hour by D.L. Moody. And I'm just in this time right now where I'm loving reading some of these older authors who have passed on, who left on some really good sermons, and this is going to be a good one. Speaking of, Spurgeon Gold, Pure, Refined, and this was compiled by Ray Comfort. It is set up in short passages to read. I'll just turn to a random page. So sometimes you'll have very little, sometimes you'll have a little more, but each time it's meant to be something that just sticks with you, that your mind will mull over for that whole day, maybe the next day. And if you all did the book Honest Faith by Spurgeon that I read with Beautiful Minutia and Chrissie's Purple Library and Deea at Idea. last month. My life was impacted. Okay, this next book is old, literally tattered. Copyright 1906. I'm so excited to read through this, and it says here the story of the life of Jesus as it moves on steadily through the Gospels, and it has this beautiful vellum page. How wonderful to come across this. I'm looking forward to carefully and slowly taking in this. I'm currently reading the Gospel of John in my personal time, and I'm taking it in smaller chunks than I usually would, and just having things pop out at me that I did not always take notice of. So I'm excited to follow up that reading of the Gospel of John with this. Next up is a set of 5 bicentennial editions, and let's look at each of those. First one is Gail Borden. And I wanted to show you a few of the inside pages here. Just inside the cover, it has the list of all the books that they did for the childhood of famous Americans. And they break them up into categories: soldiers, social civic leaders, naval heroes, even noted wives and mothers. And this first page is, I just love that beautiful, simple art, but it says Gail Borden, resourceful boy. So I believe this would be back in the day when Gail was a boy's name, and I do actually still know an older man named Gail. Next is Phyllis Wheatley. I'll show you that inside art. Young colonial poet. William Fargo. Young mail carrier. Israel Putnam. And this was the first of the 5 that caught my eye because I used to live in Putnam County, and I don't know if it's named after that or not, but I'm looking forward to finding out. Oops, one more page to turn. Fearless Boy. And last, Nathaniel Green. Independent Boy. I just love that artwork. So beautiful. Detailed and yet simple. Okay. Taking a jump, I have mentioned before in videos that I am trying to read more translated works. So we have here Cataract. I'm not going to attempt the name, but it is a Ukrainian poet's memoir of repression and resistance. And here's the back cover. It has a picture as well. Next, and this is not an author I recognize, but Old Testament Stories from the backside. And what that says on the back that it means is, it is insight into selected Old Testament stories by entering them through the backside, through a unique starting point, a creative retelling, a new lens, or the eyes of a minor or unsympathetic character. So that sounds interesting to me because we often hear Bible stories from one perspective, the main character, things like that. We've looked at 14 books so far. These are the last 4 of that purchase. And this one is Daphne du Maurier. And this is definitely one I picked up because of BookTube. The King's General. I'll show you that edge there. I only paid 99 cents, so I don't mind that it's in rough condition. This is something for me to experience this author. And the outside is rough, but honestly, the pages are in great shape. So just taking a look, I love just things like this, title pages that are just beautiful. And then getting to know the author a little bit, reading the acknowledgments. So I fully look forward to being influenced by BookTube to read this. This next book is copyright 1942, and it has inside the cover, this edition is produced in full compliance with all War Production Board conservation orders. Now I lay me down to sleep, I'm just so interested in growing, not only in reading about history, but books from history. So that'll be a good one. Next is James Hilton, Time and Time Again. Copyright 1953. And here's a look at the beautiful inside. This one was only 99 cents. And there's a look at the back. I remember the store I got these at now. And I walked in and was shocked to see probably 50 or so very old looking books. And I thought to myself, I want them all, but I did not buy them all. I went through, and these are the ones I picked out. I've got one last one here. But I thought to myself, someone had a treasure, and they were very clean. And so I know the person didn't have them sitting out where they could just get dusty easily. But here's the last book, Robert Wilder's Bright Feather, a dramatic novel of early Florida. I thought that was interesting, and I happened to buy this just days after Florida experienced some major storms here in 2024. And this book was copyright 1948. And a look at the back there. Moving on to my next store, I'm going to count those books, and I'll be right back to let you know how many I bought there. Okay, at this next location, I bought 13 books, and I'm going to divide them into the physically smaller and then the physically larger. So let's do those smaller books first. The Illustrated Words of Jesus for Women, a daily devotional, and this will probably become a gift. It's in brand new, completely perfect condition. One thing about it is that it's a coloring book. And this book says that it was first copyrighted in 1973. However, it does say that the Bible quotations are from the New Living Translation. So there are pages with quite a bit. Next up, an author I'm familiar with and very much looking forward to reading this book, A.W. Tozer's The Pursuit of God. And to give you an idea, this book was published in 1982. Another book suggested here on BookTube. I have no idea if I'm going to love it or hate it, but The Hotel on the Corner of Bitter and Sweet. And that is written by Jamie Ford. Next up, 5 Total Strangers. It says she never should have accepted that ride. This one might actually freak me out a little bit because I am not down with like people taking rides from strangers because I do think that's pretty dangerous. Next is All the King's Men by Robert Warren, who was a winner of the Pulitzer Prize. And this book is described as the finest novel ever written on American politics, and it's set in the 1930s, and that was enough to make me want to pick it up and form my own opinion. This is the story of Adoniram and Anne Judson imprisoned in the Golden City, and the cover drew me in. I know the story of the Judsons, but I'm excited to read it again. This book is going to continue on a path I've been taking for a while. Manhunt, The 12-Day Chase for Lincoln's Killer by James Swanson. If you watch my bucket list-a-thon video, I am reading a book called Fates and Traitors. And it is also about the life of John Wilkes Booth. So I'm getting the same story from a few different perspectives. Called Hanging Mary, which is another perspective on that. So Hanging Mary is the story of Mary Surratt, who was considered to be one of the conspirators along with John Wilkes Booth. So remember, one thing about this channel is that I am going to be reading a huge variety of books, some of which caught my eye up to a year ago, and my opinion of them may be to DNF them. It may be to read it and decide I wouldn't have bought it now, but since I bought it then, I read it. So having said that, some of these books are going to be a wide in variety and still goes true. First we have The Book of Lost Friends by Lisa Wingate, set in Louisiana in 1875. It says, in the tumultuous era of Reconstruction, 3 young women set off as unwilling companions on a perilous quest. And again, just that few lines caught my eye. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. Part of why I bought this is that it's 3 books in one, and the thrift store I was at still had it priced the same as buying each book individually. So Dee Henderson, who's a Christian author, and these are the books Protector, Healer, and The Rescuer. And I've never read anything by Dee Henderson that I know of or that sticks out in my mind. I've heard of her quite a bit. So I'm to something very different from those. A.J. Finn, The Woman in the Window. And this is one I heard of here on BookTube. And it is copyright 2018, so it's not brand new, but it's still being talked about some. So I'm going to see what my opinion ends up being of this. All right. Heaven, Your Real Home by Joni Tada. And the first sentence on the back, step back for a moment, focus your eyes of faith, and then come with the author into a world you've heard about from your youth, but have never seen, heaven. And I've been interested in just reading more of the details of heaven. When we talk about heaven in church and in Christian circles, are often oversimplified in my opinion. So as an adult, I want to delve into that more. Okay. This next book is written under a pseudonym, Robert Galbraith. The Cuckoo's Calling is actually written by J.K. Rowling, and I had thought a while back when I learned that she had a pseudonym she wrote under of wanting to read one of these, so when I saw it at a thrift store and recognized it, I picked that up. I want to add, part of why I picked this book up is that I have not read Harry Potter and I don't have plans to, so that'll just be a little bit of trivia about me. The Hour I First Believed by Wally Lamb. This book is split up into parts, part 1 being called Butterfly. And to me, this looks like a really old book, but it is actually copyright 2008. Okay, that is the final book of that third store, and I'm gonna count the books in the last store haul and let you know. This is the biggest yet at 19 books. So let's get started. Cloud and Wallfish by Ann Nesbitt. And this book is set in East Berlin. Next we have The Giver by Lois Lowry, and this is actually a second copy of a book and I'm going to be gifting it to a friend. Okay, this one was bought for fun. And again, it's that little pocket size that I love, Benji. I loved watching that TV show as a kid, and this one does have a few pictures inside from the TV shows. I think my stack over here is gonna fall. Okay, Tree Castle Island, and this is written by Jean George, who has won a Newbery for a book called Julie of the Wolves. And I am really into Newberys, but I'm also into reading other books by Newbery winning authors. This next one, this is a true story set in 2009, and Not Without Hope is described as, I'm going to read that blurb there on the front. On a blustery day, 4 friends embarked on a fishing trip. A harrowing 2 days later, only 1 man returned. This is his story. So I'm going to prepare probably to cry during this one. I can't imagine. I absolutely admire people who are up for adventure, but that would be tough. Another one that will probably be a tearjerker, The Light Between Oceans by Stedman, is the story of a lighthouse keeper and on an island where the supply boat only comes once a season. And he and his wife, after having some miscarriages and stillbirth, one day hear a baby's cry. And they end up adopting this child and raising the baby, and we'll find out what else happens. Okay, this next book is a companion study to a book I already own, Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers. And I hear this book praised often as being a Christian retelling of a Bible story. So I look forward to having the companion study. Next is another book that's more of a Bible study called Giving Christ First Place. And this is not a series that I'm particularly familiar with. And I do hold the right as an adult to go through a Bible study and filter out anything that may not be accurate. This book may be perfectly accurate, I don't know, but I'm just throwing that in there because I've never heard of this series or this author. That there are times in our life when we need to have discretion, that we are super strict. There's other times where we can read things and we know how to filter out what is not exactly accurate. Okay. Keeping on going. This next book is copyrighted 1973, and it is called The Black Prince by Iris Murdoch. And the beginning of the back cover begins with the phrase, "Laurels from England." I just thought that was beautiful. Of that, a pink, oh, can I get it to show up? Pink shape there, bright yellow with words on the sides. That same shape on the back. I just think it's beautiful. The front cover used those same pinks and oranges. Next one is a book I've heard of before. I'm really looking forward to reading it and reminding myself that not every day as a Christian is easy. Tortured for Christ by Richard Wurmbrand. This is the 50th anniversary edition. I don't know if that means, it includes more of these pictures at the back, or what all has sort of been changed or updated. The story of his 14 years in prison in communist Romania, which is not a setting I read about a lot, but a setting that is very close to my heart, as I had a college roommate from Romania who had moved to the United States and was just so grateful for the freedoms that she had. Copyright 1950, The Cardinal by Henry Morton Robinson. The front inside cover says that The Cardinal is a story of an American priest who becomes a prince of the Roman Catholic Church. Born of working class parents in a suburb of Boston, Stephen Fermoil fulfills his priestly destiny in day-to-day trials, discouragements, aspirations, and triumphs that test him not only as a priest, but as a warm-hearted and complex human being. The Golden Fleece and the Heroes Who Lived Before Achilles. This is a Newbery honor book, and that is why I picked it up. I'm reading through the Newbery books. My goal is to both read books that won the Newbery Award as well as the Newbery Honor. And the difference in that usually is that the honor has the silver medal and the award has the gold medal. Each year there are different amounts awarded. It's not a consistent, one of each year. Another historical fiction, The Paris Wife by Paula McLean. And it's set in 1920s Chicago. A novel of psychological suspense. That will get me every time. The Hole. And it's set in England. All right. Finding Moosewood, Finding God is written by Jack Perkins. And the blurb here says, what happened when a TV newsman abandoned his career for life on an island? This book is copyright 2013. This is another book that may end up as a gift because it still has the paper on the front and back. Classic hymns. Read and reflect with the classics. Engage a classic like never before by experiencing the classic content along with additional study and reflection tools. That was a mouthful. So for example, you have My Jesus, I Love Thee, the words to the song, who wrote it. You turn it and it has Bible study questions, something to read that's the same topic, personal reflection questions, another part of the Bible to read, and then a prayer having to do with the song. So that's definitely an interesting way to go about hymn study. Anthony Doerr, a novel about grace, and this is called Best Book of the Year by Washington Post Book World, and it's described as this: From Alaska to Ohio to the Caribbean, About Grace is a heartbreaking, radiant, and astonishingly accomplished novel about the tiny but life-saving miracles happening around us at each moment. And this book, again, I have no idea much of anything about it, but if you can see, it has snowflakes on it, and for that reason I'm hoping to read it in January, because where I live, snow is more likely to come in January than even in December. This is a book that has a floppy cover, kind of like a Bible would, but it's a daily Bible study book, and it's called Billy Graham's Peace for Each Day. It's not been written in the front cover, so again, I may end up gifting it because it's really in absolutely perfect condition. I'm going to check it out some more and then make that decision. Okay, this is an author I read in high school, Amy Tan, but I read a different book. This one is called Saving Fish from Drowning, and I want to see what year this was published, because I would have read The Kitchen God's Wife by Amy Tan in 1998, maybe 1999, but I think 1998. This one says 2005. Make sure that's not a reprinting. Doesn't look like it. So I believe this was written in 2005. I have so much fun revisiting authors that I read in years past. That's part of why I'm rereading some of my childhood favorites. That's part of what drew me to want to reread the Newbery books I read as a child and expand upon that, and hopefully in the long-term goal, like 5-10 year goal, to read every Newbery book. What else is happening? I'm, again, not buying any more books. I obviously don't need any books right now. If you're also doing a no buy November along with a read your own bookshelves, because the idea there is to set a goal and read that many books that you own before buying a single book.